Good morning, my students. This is Zina Sheikh. Today I'm going to give you a lecture about our novel Wuthering Heights. This novel is written by Emily Bronte. This is the book, and this is the book of our novel. Okay, so let's start with chapter 1. In fact, chapter 1 introduces us to one of two narrators in the novel. The other narrator will be introduced to us soon in a subsequent chapter. The narrator is a man called Mr. Lockwood, who describes himself as a person who dislikes people, a person who avoids human society, and he also tells us about his strange behavior toward a woman with whom he had fallen in love. He has now come to a countryside and is staying as a tenant in a house called Thrush across Grange. Okay. Concerning our narrator, Mr. Lockwood, during his visit to Wuthering Heights to meet his landlord Heathcliff, who lives in a gloomy, isolated house. When Mr. Lockwood arrived, he is met with suspicion and hostility. The house is dark and unwelcoming with snarling dogs and unfriendly servants. Inside the house, the people are cold and unfriendly. Mr. Heathcliff, the owner, is stern and distant, while the other inhabitants are equally unwelcoming. Mr. Lockwood feels uncomfortable and uneasy, sensing that there is something mysterious and unsettling about the place and its people. The visit leaves him curious, but also disturbed by the strange atmosphere of Wuthering Heights. The most important event in this chapter, when Mr. Lockwood visits Wuthering Heights for the first time, he is attacked. He is attacked by a group of dogs. After knocking on the door and waiting outside in the cold for a while, a servant finally lets him in. As Lockwood steps inside, the dogs, large and fierce, suddenly leap at him. They growl and snap, ready to attack. Okay. Now we come to Mr. Lockwood. Now Mr. Lockwood tries to defend himself, okay, by grabbing a poker from the fireplace. The situation becomes chaotic until a servant girl named Zilla intervenes, calling off the dogs and saving him from being seriously hurt. This aggressive welcome adds to the already unsettling atmosphere of Wuthering Heights, making Lockwood's first visit even more uncomfortable and eerie. This is the diagram. This is the narrative structure and techniques in Wuthering Heights. Here we have, this is Mr. Lockwood, the first narrator, and here we have Miss Nellie Dean, the second narrator. Okay. Mr. Lockwood is one of two narrators in the novel, as I said before. in Wuthering Heights, of course, the novel uses a frame narrative where Mr. Lockwood begins the story by recounting his experiences at Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange after he becomes a tenant there. Okay. Now again, we back to Mr. Lockwood. Mr. Lockwood's narration serves as a way to introduce the reader to the strange and tumultuous history of Earnshaw and Linton family. After his unsettling encounters at Wuthering Heights, he becomes curious about its inhabitants, prompting Nellie Dean, the housekeeper, to recount the events that lead to the current state of affairs. Okay, Nellie becomes the second primary narrator, telling the story of Heathcliff, Catherine, and the other characters over many years. Okay, Lockwood occasionally interjects with his thoughts and observations, but much of the novel's detailed backstory is conveyed through Nellie's narration. Okay. Now we come to Mr. Heathcliff, the owner of the house, okay, of Wuthering Heights, in Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. He is a central and complex character, known for his intense brooding nature and his deep consuming passion. When Mr. Lockwood first meets Heathcliff, he finds him to be a dark, stern, and mysterious figure. Heathcliff's appearance is striking, with a weathered face, and weathered face means colored face, and demeanor that suggests he has endured much suffering. Okay, despite being the master of Wuthering Heights, Heathcliff does not display the typical warmth or hostility one might expect from a host, from a host. Indeed, he is reserved, somewhat rude, and indifferent to Lockwood's visit. Okay, now we come to again to Heathcliff's backstory, as later revealed through Nellie Dean narration. Nellie Dean explains much of his character. He was an orphan, brought to Wuthering Heights as a child, and he grew up in a harsh environment. Over time, of course, he becomes consumed by love, revenge, and bitterness, particularly due to his unfulfilled love for Catherine Earnshaw. His ownership of Wuthering Heights is tied to the desire for power and control, a stark contrast to the vulnerability and suffering he experienced in his youth. This is Heathcliff. Of course, he is the brooding, complex protagonist of Wuthering Heights. Okay, an adopted member of Earnshaw family. Okay, he starts as an outsider but becomes central to the novel drama. Okay. To the novel's drama, his intense love for Catherine Earnshaw drives him to seek revenge against those who wronged him, including Henley Earnshaw and Edgar Linton. Okay, now we come to the last points. We have again Heathcliff's quest for revenge for vengeance, and his deep suffering over his unfulfilled love make him both a tragic and a villainous figure. Okay, his actions and emotions create a legacy of turmoil and that affected everyone around him. Okay, thank you.